Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Aishwarya Singh and I'm going to be your host for this 6th edition of the annual BPM and Shared Services Conclave 2016. Now, we're going to be starting with the first session of the conclave, which is a CXO interaction, and it's themed Imperatives for Rebooting Business Process Strategy to Outcompete from the Lens of the CXOs. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to take the privilege to invite on stage the moderator for the session first. Please help me welcome Mr. Ravi Ramakrishnan, founder and CEO, RvaluE Group, and founder, Shared Services Forum. Welcome, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Ramakrishnan is recognized as a thought leader and also a BPM guru in India as also overseas. The RvaluE team has set up 14 SSCs in India and overseas with 30 plus BPM assignments under his dynamic leadership. He has been recognized as one of the visionary CEOs by the CFO magazine in 2012, and RvaluE has been recognized as pioneers, gurus, and game changers in shared services space and business process transformation in India by Consultants Review and Insights Success magazines. I'd also like to share with you that he mentors business leaders and is an executive coach for mid to senior level leaders. A very warm welcome to you this morning, sir. Let me now take the privilege of inviting our speakers, starting with Mr. Sunil Sayal, Region CFO, India, Nokia Solutions and Networks, and President, Shared Services Forum. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome him with a round of applause as well. Welcome, Mr. Sayal. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Sayal's tryst with the finance function spans close to 3 decades and is finely balanced between some well-known Indian names and global ones, like Wolters, HCL Group, Ranbaxy Group, Ericsson, where he spent 14 years. Currently, he's the CFO for Region India at Nokia Networks. He was still recently the chairman of the Finance Committee of Delhi Management Association, a position he held for 5 years starting from 2010, and was also on the Direct Taxes Committee and the Committee for Members in Industry of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India for 2 years as the industry representative. And thrice during 2011, 2012, and 2014, he was selected by an eminent panel consisting of well-known corporate personalities as one of the top 100 finance professionals in the country. A very warm welcome once again to you, Mr. Sayal. With that, ladies and gentlemen, it is now my privilege to invite, at this point, Mr. Gilles Boutte, who is the Chief Financial Officer and Executive Vice President Finance, VE Commercial Vehicles Private Limited. Let's welcome him with a round of applause as well. Warm welcome, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, he comes armed with 40 years of work experience. He's worked with Volvo CE and Volvo Bus in the past. He's got extensive international exposure and a broad background in finance and is involved in business development, strategy, and organizational issues on various continents. He's been in India for nearly 6 years and works closely with local management team and with Volvo HO. He's currently managing a team of 160 people in India, including a shared service center and overseas subsidiaries as well, which include USA, China, and South Africa. Very warm welcome once again to you, Mr. Boutte. With that, ladies and gentlemen, this is our esteemed panel. The first session will begin now. I'd like to request Mr. Ramakrishnan to kindly take over the proceedings. Sir, please.
Very good morning to each one of you. I think it's amazing, and I wanted to especially welcome Mr. Mohan Reddy today amongst us, who has been the past president, past chairman of the NASSCOM, which is the parent body of all our IT-enabled and business services. I think it's such a privilege and pride for us to have you here, sir. And Dr. Madhukar, who has been part of this industry overall. He's been the chairman of CMD, and I'm sure more will be talked about later. And I'm so privileged he is part of the BRICS Chamber of Commerce, which is the kind of growth which we have seen in the last 20-25 years. India has become one of those, so I warmly welcome you, sir. I think we have got 2 stalwarts, with us, and actually we were deliberating, Rakesh and I and Sanjay, in terms of how do we really kickstart this session. I think the biggest plus of this interaction with these 2 leaders, I just wanted to tell you, is they are global and they have understanding of India very well. I think that's a power, and we, Shared Services Forum talks about global India, where we really want to see, while the NASSCOM looks at the GICs, we really bring together the GICs and the Indian organizations very closely together. And I would say, Gilles is as much an Indian today You spent 6 years, and we have interacted with him very closely. So, warm welcome to both of you, and I think we'll kickstart the session right away in terms of today. I think Sanjay talked about VUCA, and I know Sunil talked about it, a couple of conclave back. I think, how is the world changing as you see it, Sunil? I think the world is changing very fast.
I think that's a very, what should I say? That's a very significant question. Let me put it this way. Sanjay said, well, just we have been hearing about VUCA. It is kind of become a very, very common word. But let me also give you another perspective as to how the VUCA world is still extremely important. And see, so far the world has actually seen 3 industrial revolutions.
Okay.
The first, second, and third. I'm sure all of us are aware of it, and I don't need to go into them. But I am also sure that many of us have also heard about the 4th industrial revolution. Is it actually a revolution, or is it something which is still far away? So when I talk of the 4th industrial revolution, it is actually a combination of multiple technologies, all digital in nature. So I may maybe specify a few. Robotics, process automation is one. Automotive intelligence is another. Internet of Things could be another. 3D printing is another. Autonomous vehicles we are hearing and reading about is another. So there are a plethora of these digital technologies which are actually facing us. And all these put together is what some of us have kind of coined the term as the 4th industrial revolution.
Very well.
So this 4th industrial revolution, whether we like it or not, is going to become a reality. And the question is, as the Shared Services Forum, do we really understand this revolution which is gradually picking up speed?
Yes.
And let me also tell you that unlike the first industrial revolution, which actually took 120 years to move out of Europe, this revolution will not even take 10 years.
Yes, maybe even less.
So I was actually reading a survey which was done by one of the international shared services organization, and which actually said that about 1/3 of the people in the shared services domain who kind of responded to that survey, and there were 500 respondents, not 10 or 20 of them. 1/3 of them did not even know about these technologies. About 1/4 knew about it, but they were not convinced that this is something which is not going to hit us. So this is a reality which is going to hit the customers whom we are servicing, and if it hits the customers whom we are servicing, then obviously it means that we better be prepared for it.
And I'm sure there must be 1/3 who are talking about it but do nothing about it.
Do nothing about it.
And yeah, very well said. So Gilles, how do you see the world changing? You see both global and local
Yes, I
concepts.
think the world is changing extremely fast. So what we can see in the past, I would say 5 to 10 years, all the countries are now open, I would say. There is a huge exchange of information, exchange of technology, and there is not anymore one country in the world who has its own technology and keeping for itself. Now it's a big exchange. So I would say the competitiveness and the success of the company now is to be proactive. We should not wait and see what will happen. I would say the key success for everybody is to be proactive before the others. Yeah. So this is really for me a challenge in the Shared Service Center, because up to now, why we have created Shared Service Center, it was purely on a quality and cost driven. Yeah. Okay, all the companies in the 10 past years or 20 past years have created Shared Service Center to harmonize, to standardize their process, and to make sure that we are providing better information in due time to the organization, to the stakeholders. Now this time is finished. The stakeholders, the managers, the leaders of the company are asking more from the Shared Service Center because they want to be proactive.
Absolutely.
So they would like to have the information analyzed before the information is available. So that's for me the big challenge. There is no secret. Everybody has the same technology, both in industry, in information, everywhere the information is available. Now the real challenge is how to be more proactive, to treat this information and to react or act before the others. This is for me the big challenge of the coming years.
I think very well, really to say that, that the speed of change, yes, technology change, the kind of, openness which is happening and due to the technology, I think it's really making the world completely different. Now, the next important focus for us as CXOs would be really to say, okay, business, you touched upon it, Gilles, that business process services, business services or IT-enabled services, is really something which has to enable the business and create business to compete, as you put it. One of the golden objectives of SSF is process edge and competitive advantage. So how do you see the business process strategy, kind of enabling this opportunity, and what kind of business process strategy changes are going to happen in the new world and for the businesses? Sunil, maybe.
So, you see, I think there are two important things which we need to keep in mind before I come on to the specific question which you have asked, Ravi. See, so far we were always cost focused.
Right.
So now use of these technologies which I briefly mentioned to you, and for the sake of brevity, let me call it data analytics. So data analytics, use of data analytics for cost reduction will not be as important as use of data analytics for increasing revenue generation.
Absolutely. It's just a shift completely.
And that mind shift has to happen now.
Yeah.
Because that is what, as business heads, I'm sure this is what business heads would look forward to you as proponents of the shared services organizations.
Yes.
Similarly, things like problem solving, leadership, data analytics will be more important than just having a process expertise. So these are two important things which I just wanted to lay before this audience here. This is what the business would expect.
Yep.
And therefore, whatever we have so far been doing has to be aligned to be able to achieve these objectives.
Absolutely, absolutely. And what is your thoughts on this, Gilles, in terms of the...
Coming back to what I was saying, I think that the leaders or the deciders in a company now should not think about process, should not think about how the information is treated. This information should come to them already analyzed, and they are here to drive, not to ask how things should work. The operation should work by themselves. And the deciders of the company should have, in due time or before due time, have the correct information to decide. Yeah. And I am also convinced that the future of a company will not be anymore based on a business plan. Yeah. For me, business plan is in the past. Now all companies should work on a rolling. Yes. Okay, doing a business plan for 1 year or 2 or 3 years, it's completely out of time now. Okay, we should be on a rolling basis. What is happening, what was happening yesterday, what will happen this morning, and we should automatically adapt our way of deciding on this new approach.
Absolutely.
Okay, so for that, the shared service center should not provide only the information, but should also immediately analyze this information on a timely basis, immediately. Because the leaders will have no time to analyze. We should give directly them the information to compete and to react immediately. So for me, this is what will be the change in the processes, to be extremely proactive and not to ask too many questions. How should I analyze that? It should come directly, and with this information analyzed, we can immediately take decisions.
Very right.
And less in the past, very companies were successful based on the feeling, or the business will go like this, or that could happen. Now it's finished. Okay, we cannot do business based on feelings. Business should be based on facts, okay, and proactiveness. So this is my view.
No, I think you really touched upon it. And one of the key focus of our objective today is what we call how do organizations create differentiators, build differentiators. Okay. And in this changing world, I think we have seen, and I think we talked about it, Sunil, with Brexit happening, which nobody even thought of it. Actually, I feel that some of the imponderables never even thought of have become real today. U.S. elections has a different kind of connotation. I think even demonetization, I don't think one really expected what's going to happen and so on. And so, in this kind of scenario, how do you think organizations leverage the business process services or IT-enabled services or strategy to build differentiators for their business?
You see, Ravi, let us also understand that with these two events, Brexit and Donald Trump's victory, in spite of whatever the opinion poll said, basically means that the feeling of the nationalist feeling
Yeah.
is actually becoming loud and strong. Let me put it this way. So whatever the people might say in terms of the fact that they are global and they would welcome people coming in from anywhere and everywhere, but at the heart of the matter is that they are really worried about the jobs being outsourced, etc., etc. When things about economic benefit and globalization ultimately helps in the long run, all these things. I mean, there is definitely some bit of anxiety in the minds of the people. That is why they kind of voted for Brexit, and that is why they voted for Mr. Trump, because both these issues actually were built on the nationalist feelings. Yeah. Now, because of the fact that this is built on nationalist feeling, and also coupled with the fact that these digital technologies are coming in, whereby it may not be all that all that sexy to be able to move jobs from from a high cost location to a low cost location like India, Philippines, etc. So the strategies will now have to be built keeping this environment into
one more variable to be considered
into mind. Just to give you an example, robotic process automation cost of a particular let us suppose activity, which I don't recall as to which particular activity it was. The survey which I was reading actually mentioned that the cost is 1/3 of what it is as of now. Yeah. If we move on to robotics, 1/3 of the offshoring cost.
Absolutely.
And if it is onshoring, then the cost is 1/9. So if these things are going to become a reality, then the shape and feel of the shared services industry is not going to remain the same.
Globally, it will change.
Therefore, we will have to move up the value chain to be able to create a differentiator.
Right.
Now, how much up can we move? To what extent will we be successful is something which I would leave to this audience to kind of deliberate and kind of think about. I don't have answers to it, and I don't think any of us would have ready answers to this. Absolutely. But rather than just concentrating on things like T&E and P2P, I think we will have to move towards more towards the financial consolidations and financial reportings. Just to give you a very small example, basically relating only to the field of finance which I represent. The question is, I mean, can RPA or robotics take over everything? But the answer is no. They can take over certain tasks, they can take over certain activities, but they cannot take over the full process. Yeah. So therefore, the differentiator will come in from the fact, can we leverage on whatever bandwidth will be available to us going forward, something which part of which would be done by the robots and the multiple technologies which are referred to you, and the other part which will still require human intelligence.
Gilles, I think I know Nokia and Volvo both have global shared services in India and local shared services for themselves. So, how do you see this impacting the differentiators for the business?
In fact, if you look at the Volvo Group is a big group worldwide. This is the first truck manufacturer in the world. And Volvo has started to implement shared service center 25 years ago. Yeah. The first one was in Sweden, then it was in US, and in the 90s, the biggest in the world was in Wrocław, yeah, in Varsovia. And now we have shared service center everywhere. Why? Because the Volvo Group, the Volvo brand, is extremely prestigious, and this prestige of the brand is coming from the quality of the product that Volvo has delivered worldwide during 1 century. Yeah. Volvo Cars, even if Volvo Cars is not anymore part of the Volvo Group, the brand is linked to safety, quality, very strong vehicles. And Volvo Trucks is the first brand in terms of quality on a worldwide. Why? Because Volvo has always focused on processes. How to do quality. You need to implement process, and to go from A to Z, you need to pass gates, B, C, D. And if you don't pass these gates, if the gate is not green, you are not allowed to pass to the next gate. Extremely strict process mapping. And this is the fundamentals of the Volvo, is the quality of the service, the quality of the product. Yeah. This is what has done the strengths of the group. And so we can implement a lot of processes, but if you don't apply this discipline to pass gates only when they are green, and to make sure that you pass one by one, you will never succeed in quality. And this is what I have been fighting in India when I came, because in India, we have the willingness to go very fast, which is fantastic. But sometimes we want to go too fast.
Yeah.
And we want to pass the gate even if it is not full green. So we should not do that. Okay, so for my personal point of view, the differentiation between a performing company and normal company is this process which should be respected. And if you deliver quality, even if it is service, if it is product, quality should be first. And you will always survive versus the competitors if you give qualified product. Absolutely. I am convinced, absolutely convinced of this. Yeah. And this is what we are doing now with Volvo iShare. The iShare brand has learned a lot from the Volvo group due to this process implementation. Yeah. And no mystery, you need to deliver quality. And to deliver quality, you need to implement processes everywhere, everywhere.
So one last question before we just open to the audience. I think it's, there are two big pieces to this quality and what we talked about. One is the customers. Yes. And customers are demanding. Customers are in the same world of change. And so if providers or partners are going to say that's a problem because of the world, they're not going to accept it. Is that it's as much the world I'm living in. One is the customer and the customer focus and experience. The other side is, because the world is changing, the skills and capabilities of people has a huge way to see it. Because if people are not reoriented, reskilled to deliver the quality in this fast world, which is combines, opposite things together. You want speed, you want stability, both at the same time. So how do you see this customer and skilling, as differentiators in today's environment as it changes? Gilles, you can go first.
So I think, especially in India, I have been here for 6 years, I can see an extremely big change.
Yeah.
People are more and more educated. There is a lot of information available. Everybody in 1 second knows everything about the planet. Yeah. Okay, everybody in the streets, even in India. So people are more and more aware of what is happening. They are more aware of what they should ask for. So there is a tremendous change in the customer demands. And we should consider the customer as a real partner. We should not explain everything to the customer now because he knows. Okay, so what will be the difference is, once again, to explain him that what we will discuss with him, what we will deliver to him is a better quality.
Yes.
Okay, even if it is a small product or a small service, the customer should rely on us. Okay, should rely on you. And this is what will do the differentiator. This is the way you will partnership with your customer.
Very well.
Okay. You should also train him, but he is aware of what is on the market.
Yes.
He's aware on this market. So you need to find a solution to differentiate. And what is for me this challenge is to have him as a partner.
Very right. Sunil.
Okay, let me also then take an example, Ravi. Say, I belong to an industry which we call as telecom infrastructure industry. So this industry kind of became active in India in 1995 when the first telecom mobile licenses became instrumental. And that used to be a time when the customer used to buy whatever we used to say.
Yeah.
So we used to guide the customer as to, this is what you got to purchase to be able to get to this particular point. Over the last 20 years, things have totally taken a U-turn. Now the customer tells us, this is what I want, please develop it for me.
Yes, very true. I heard this to say, what is B2B and B2C has now become me to B. No longer the business is driving it. I'm driving as a customer. It's no longer B2B, B2C, it's me to B, your tenant. So he makes the choice.
He makes the choice. And if you have a little bit of interest in the field from where I come, so the newest entrant in the field is Reliance Jio, as all of us know.
Yes.
I mean, and the main vendor, the main company from where they have actually bought the equipment is a company which was nowhere in the field of telecom infrastructure, which is Samsung. Basically, because they kind of specified, well, this is what we want, because they have studied the industry for the last 20 years. So they know exactly what is it that will be effective as far as this country is concerned, what is it which will be most cost effective, and they get somebody to kind of develop it and make it for them, custom made for them. So basically the differentiator, coming back to your question, I think the differentiator would be to be able to understand proactively beforehand as to what is it that
anticipate,
and what is it that he or she is going to ask for.
And I think you said it brilliant, and my thought, one of the things I saw in current days, people who understand the product well will be successful. But I think the world is changing towards, even if the person can understand the customer well, then the person can do much better quality and much better service. So the world is completely shifting towards customer-focused environment. It's this customer experience transformation which is happening. So I think this is wonderful to have this conversation. Let me just, I have few minutes since, I've taken the permission. So I would say a couple of questions from the audience to the wonderful panel, so over to you. I hope the mics are there.
Since there are no questions, Ravi, would you want to give your views also to the audience on some of the questions which you kind of raised to us?
Then I'll just, I think so much, thank you very much, but I think I'll just take 1 minute if there's one more question there. If I see the time to reboot has happened already, and I think, which is why one of the reasons we felt that, if I really look at, I think one of the, I would say even as I interact with, Mr. Mohan Reddy, he really thought of, when people were thinking whether design can be offshore, I know I was in Aisha myself, and we said design is core. We cannot offshore or outsource, and that was in 94 to 97, And here is the person who has actually looked at it and made a difference. So today the world is moving towards high value, you talked about. I think, will the GICs, which are the global in-house centers, will continue to look at the way they're expanding, or will they look at the manufacturing thought processes? How does it make? Some of the research discoveries are coming to us as Rakesh unfolds, and the publication is there. We do see that the world is moving towards, the customer. I shared with you, in my perspective, the B2B is something which is going to be absolutely real. Businesses will be driven by customer metrics and not just by the process metrics. And the last point I would like to add is people will need to be ready. I've seen you talked about industrial revolution, and I personally feel industrial revolutions of open. Having said that, it displaces jobs in particular area, but it actually creates new jobs. So if people are not going to be ready for the new jobs, which is why the reskilling is going to be so critical, you will find a huge traffic jam happening in the environment today. So it's not about employment, it's about employability, and I think India as a nation has to really take the leadership with 50%. I'm sure I will hear more about it, but Mr. Reddy coming onto the stage as to how India has grown. But I do feel that the differentiator for the business process world has to happen in India. This India can make a substantial contribution to the world at large, and therefore the innovations and the way to look at things differently has to happen. So that's my quick summary view. And any last question? Otherwise we will move on to the next panel. Any one question? Oh, there is one.
About how we need to have that respect and discipline in processes for an organization to be preferred and have the quality inbuilt, in their output, right? But we've also talked about how fast the world is changing, right? And the need to be proactive here. So this kind of puts us in a catch-22 situation where we have this constantly changing landscapes, process definitions evolving probably every other day. And then we also need to build this respect for the process, which may change the next moment. So what do you suggest? How do organizations tackle such a catch-22 situation here? And eventually, do you think that somewhere, because we are trying to be proactive and we are trying to be more result-oriented, the quality takes a back seat? I'm just saying slightly here, a little back seat in terms of, or maybe relatively, to obtaining the result, It's kind of a prioritization that may have to be done here.
So for me, it's not a catch-22 situation. You have to be extremely pragmatic. And I remember when we start with Ravi and Rakesh on this shared service center, first of all, we have done a roadmap very, very short. Okay, we should implement everything in 6 months. And I was fully against this. You need to take time. Don't do a revolution when you do that. Okay, you need to tackle your process on a pragmatic point of view. So take one process by one process. You define what you have to do to go from A to Z, what are the best way to do it, and do that process by process. When you have done all your processes, without disturbing the operation, do that in a smart way and in a pragmatic way, and take your time. You have no rush to implement a process, but it should be done the right way, without overpassing the gate and so on. Do that the right way. When you are ready, you implement. And after that, you do the sub-processes one by one. And after that, you will see after 1 year up to which level down you need to go to improve your processes. And quality will automatically come. Do that in a pragmatic way. Don't do that I would say, too quickly. You will fail if you do that quickly. And I remember we were debating a lot with Ravi, because we need to do that. We had a steering committee every 2 weeks, and I was saying, no, we will not pass this gate because it's not green. We can afford to be 1-2 months delay in implementing, but it should be done the right way. Sometimes we are going too fast, and we don't do the right thing. And it should not be a big bang in your organization. You do that process by process. And you will be a fantastic output at the mid and long term. Don't go too fast.
We'll close with your comments, Sunil.
Comments to this question?
Yeah.
Okay. I think I would slightly differ from Gilles, maybe because of the industry from where I come from. I mean, quickly is a very relative term, so it can be it can have different connotations for different people. So, as far as I am concerned, I think so long as we are confident about 75 to 80% in terms of the quality and the other things, we should start to move, and then improve the balance 20 to 25% maybe on the job, so to say, so as to not to lose time, because in my view, time is extremely precious. Not that quality is not. I mean, that's not what I'm saying. But once you are able to maybe achieve the 75 to 80% levels of what you think you will be you have to achieve, that is the time to kind of take the first step forward.
Thank you so much, and I think hand over back to you, and we will, yes.
Thanks very much.